Now at 5, the city of Joplin looks to create a committee aimed at addressing declining neighborhoods. Plus, how a local teacher is putting his Star Wars fandom on full display. And
former President Trump won't have to comply with a subpoena from the House committee investigating the January 6th Capitol attack. I'm Skyler Henry in Washington, recapping the panel's findings and the latest from the other committee probing Trump's tax returns.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
An office on the first floor of Joplin City Hall will be remodeled to provide working space for an expanded team to address declining neighborhoods. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. In 2020, the Joplin City Council set a goal of stabilizing and cleaning up deteriorating neighborhoods as part of a strategic plan. The plan to remodel a space in City Hall is the start of that goal.
We had a series of public input sessions. We had our development operations study that was completed this year, which outlined additional improvements that the citizens would like to see around neighborhood improvement programming, the enforcement of code, better upkeep of buildings and neighborhoods in general. So we're going to bring on those additional staff in the coming year, and we need a place to house them. So we're going to be refurbishing this first floor.
The City Council last week also advanced on first reading a construction services contract with Industrial Electric, allowing more than $78,000 for this remodeling work. KOAM is always looking to hear from aspiring journalists, so we're continuing a program where we air stories shot, written, and edited by local students. Well, this next story comes from Joplin High School. Different teachers like to decorate their classrooms to fit their own personalities. Joplin Eagle Television student reporter Miles Griffith shows us one classroom in a galaxy far, far away.
It's not every classroom where the teacher has practically a Star Wars museum. Dave Smith teaches film at Franklin Tech, and it's not hard to guess his favorite movie.
And so I really have been a Star Wars fan my whole life since I was about 6 years old and first saw the movie in the theater for the first time when it came out. So yeah, I had a lot of cool Star Wars toys when I was a kid, but as I've gotten older, I've been able to get cooler toys.
Not only does Smith have a room full of toys, he also has a room housing a life-size Darth Vader and an R2 that is still under construction. Smith says that Darth Vader took almost 2 years to build and that R2 is going on year 6.
What is my favorite of the things that I've collected? Well, I'm sure I would say it would be a toss-up, I guess, between Vader and R2, just because R2 has had so much work put into it. But Vader's my favorite. He's always been my favorite villain, my favorite bad guy. So having him standing here is pretty neat. That's probably my favorite thing that I've got in the room.
Vader watches the students as they work on audio and film projects. One of Smith's students is Josiah Rizzo, and he says this is the coolest classroom in the whole school.
The feeling of this class is really comforting in regards to the fact that I'm a huge movie buff myself. So when you come in, you see all the posters, all the music that he has set up. It doesn't have the typical classroom confinement, and it's more of a space where you can be creative.
Smith says any student is welcome to come and take a selfie with Vader, and even Missouri Governor Mike Parsons joined in the fun.
Again, thanks to Joplin High School student Miles Griffith for that report. Let's check in with Doug for a first look at the weather.
Well, it turned out to be another super windy day for us today. Not quite as windy as what we had yesterday, but still moving pretty good. We still have these southwesterly winds at about 15 to 25 across the region. Plus our gusts have been 30 upwards to 40 at times as we have worked through the afternoon hours. Now, these winds are going to start to back down a bit as we go through the evening hours. So that's good news. We have a weak cold front that slips through. So our winds switch to the northwest and not near as strong as we go through the overnight hours tonight and then into tomorrow. But look at our temps. We went into the 70s today. It's still 65 in Joplin, 68 in Miami. So it feels fantastic. We have some clouds kind of rotating through, but we are going to cool down a bit over the next few days. Of course, we're going to look at that here in just a bit.
See you then. Former President Trump has outlasted the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol. He will not have to comply with the committee subpoena after all. But another House committee investigating the former president plans to make his taxes public this week. Reporter Skylar Henry has more details from Capitol Hill.
The committee investigating the January 6th attack at the U.S. Capitol has dropped its subpoena of former President Donald Trump, asking for documents and his testimony. Committee Chairman Benny Thompson issued a letter to Trump's attorneys saying, "I hereby formally withdraw the subpoena issued to former President Trump and notify you that he's no longer obligated to comply or produce records in response to said subpoena."
The Select Committee stands adjourned.
The panel wrapped up its work before it could compel Trump to provide the documents and testimony it sought. But after 18 months and more than 1,000 interviews, the committee issued a final report last week, finding the central cause of January 6th was one man, former President Donald Trump. The January 6th committee isn't the only one that's wrapping up its work. The House Ways and Means Committee has one more piece of business to conduct before Republicans take control next week and shut down Trump-related investigations. The committee will be releasing Trump's tax returns to the public Friday after voting last week to do so.
Mr. Chairman, on this vote, I have 24 yeas, 16 noes.
The committee spent years fighting in the courts to get the documents. The Supreme Court ruled in November that Congress had a right to the taxes as part of its oversight role. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The Ways and Means Committee investigation showed that until the investigation began, the IRS had failed to audit then President Trump as required by law. Israel's longest-serving Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is returning to power today, heading up a new government that's raising some concerns. It's been described as Israel's most extreme far-right government since the foundation of the country. Netanyahu was ousted from office last year over opposition to his leadership while on trial for corruption. Soccer legend Pele has died at age 82 after battling cancer. To many, Pele is to soccer what Babe Ruth is to baseball, Muhammad Ali is to boxing, a singular athlete and personality who lifted his sport to new heights. Arguably the greatest soccer player ever, he was declared a national treasure by his native Brazil. And in 1999, he was named Athlete of the Century by the International Olympic Committee. Still ahead, more trouble at the airport.
Southwest Airlines cancels thousands of additional flights ahead of another holiday weekend. I'm Michael George with when the company hopes to be back to regular service.
And next in Health Watch, we take a look back at the top health stories from the past year. Topping today's Health Watch, it's the most critical time of year for blood donations. The American Red Cross says there's an urgent call for donors, with someone in the U.S. needing blood or platelets every 2 seconds. The Red Cross is giving out long-sleeve t-shirts through January 2nd to those who donate. From an outbreak of Mpox to a new nationwide mental health hotline to babies getting the COVID vaccine, reporter Bradley Blackburn looks back at the year's top health stories.
The CDC eased COVID-19 guidelines in August. Among the changes, people exposed to an infected person no longer needed a quarantine. The CDC director also announced an agency overhaul after reviewing its COVID response.
I think our public health infrastructure in the country was not up to the task of handling this pandemic.
In May, the White House lowered flags to half staff to mark 1 million American deaths from the virus. But there was progress against the pandemic in 2022. Children under 5 and as young as 6 months old became eligible for the vaccine. A different respiratory virus called RSV surged in the fall in at least 36 states. At the same time, flu hospitalizations climbed to their highest level in a decade, leading health experts to warn of a so-called triple-demic of COVID, flu, and RSV over the holidays.
What happened is we had a 2.5-year window where nobody got anything, and so everybody is getting it at once.
As respiratory illnesses increased, there were shortages of amoxicillin, a common antibiotic used to treat secondary bacterial infections such as sore throats and ear infections. In August, the White House declared Mpox, recently known as monkeypox, a national public health emergency after thousands of Americans became infected with the virus.
It was one of the most painful experiences of my life.
2022 had the first case of polio in nearly a decade, and a 57-year-old man lived for 2 months after becoming the first person to receive a heart transplant from a pig.
He said, I don't want to die. And he said, if I do, maybe you'll learn something to help others.
The FDA proposed ending the sale of menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars in the U.S. The agency also ordered Juul to pull its e-cigarette products from the market, but the company is appealing the decision. A nationwide suicide and crisis lifeline launched with a 3-digit number, 988, to make it easier and faster for those in need to get help. Millions of Americans with mild to moderate hearing loss can now get hearing aids over the counter. And in November, Dr. Anthony Fauci spoke at the White House podium for the last time.
Every day for all of those years, I've given it everything that I have.
The man who became the face of the U.S. response to COVID announced over the summer he would step down as President Biden's chief medical advisor, as well as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, a post he's held for 38 years. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
And that is a look at the day's and year's health news. A little bit later, a look at the latest weekly unemployment numbers from the Labor Department.
Plus, our temperatures are going to be cooling down over the next couple days. We're going to look at that coming up. Well, it definitely turned out to be a warm one for us today. Temperatures all the way up into lower 70s for afternoon highs. So we really warmed up across the region, which is crazy. Lower 70s today. And then 1 week ago today, we were right now sitting below zero. Indigo Sky Casino and Resort just outside of Seneca, Missouri. We do have a lot of clouds, but overall, it looks pretty good. All right, yesterday, right around 60 for a high, which was great. And then we went into lower 70s during the afternoon hours for us today. We're still fairly warm. 64 in Nevada, 63 in Monette, 68 in Miami. Chanute is sitting at 60 degrees, but we do have some cooler air, which is working in. Cold front just working through Kansas City, also into Wichita. But you can see the cooler air. It's not cold, but it's cooler than what we have seen over the past couple days. So the winds ahead of this, of course, have been strong over the past couple days. These are going to start to back down just a bit. They are calming down a little bit right now, but still we have southwesterly winds at about 10 to 20. Nice shot of the sun setting, 7th and range line, currently sitting at 65. Southerly winds at about 15 to 20. Humidity is at 47%. Through the evening, we slide back through the 60s into the 50s, but eventually a colder night as we drop back into the mid-30s for overnight lows. We also have quite a few clouds. Mid and upper level clouds, not a big deal, nothing underneath them, but they are going to stay fairly thick. As we go through the overnight hours tonight, you can see the rain down through parts of Arkansas, even into Texas. Most of this is going to just skirt the 4-state area later on tonight. So we're going to keep it dry, but just to the southeast of the region, we are going to get some showers. But you can see this whole storm system rotating up into the Great Lakes. And it's going to take the snow with it, most of the rain off to our east, so it kind of skirts around us as we go through the next few days. Check out west. Here's our next system, and look at the jet stream all the way out into the Pacific Ocean. So it's going to be system after system after system as we go through the next few weeks. All right, let's go through time tonight. We'll stop tomorrow morning. Thick clouds, mid-30s. Partly sunny skies for us tomorrow. We do get into the mid-40s by noon, most of us near 50, 51 for a high tomorrow. 46 in Nevada, 55 in Veneta, Anderson at about 52. A lot of clouds again tomorrow night. We drop back mid to upper 30s once again. Saturday, overall looks pretty good. We warm up upper 50s. This is New Year's Eve. Let's go all the way to midnight. Saturday night, we're going to be dry, sitting into the upper 40s, so really looking pretty good as we go into the holiday weekend. All right, for your Friday, 37 in the morning, 48 by noon, high 51. We'll drop back to about 47 as we head into the afternoon hours. 61 Saturday, 64 New Year's Day, 66 again on Monday. Showers, thunderstorms, good bet especially in the afternoon. We do cool down a bit on Tuesday, possibly a little rain snow mix on Wednesday. We need to keep our eyes on that system, but the next few days look pretty good.
The temperature's unbelievable.
Yeah,
as
fantastic.
we begin a new year. Thanks. Coming up, more problems at the airport for thousands of travelers. First, though, we honor a local veteran. Gene Salisbury served in the U.S. Navy from 1957 to 1959 and in the U.S. Army Reserve for 20 years. His hometown, Pittsburgh. And we salute Lieutenant Colonel Gene Salisbury, a four-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, first-time weekly unemployment benefits claims are up again. 225,000 new claims were filed last week. That's 9,000 more than the previous week's tally of 216,000. Continuing claims also ticked up to their highest level since February, 1.7 million for the week ending December 17th. With another holiday weekend approaching, the travel trauma continues for thousands of passengers. Southwest Airlines has now scrubbed more than 13,000 flights since last week's winter storm, and another wave of cancellations today. As Michael George reports, the airline is predicting relief tomorrow.
Southwest Airlines canceled another 2,300 flights on Thursday. That's about 58% of its schedule, according to the FlightAware tracking service.
We were boarding the plane. The pilots were there, but they didn't have a flight crew.
The carrier now says it expects to return to normal on Friday, days after the other major airlines bounced back from the Christmas storm. The travel glitches may have affected more than 1 million passengers.
You know by now, all the flexibility and planning that we put in place to deal with the storm just wasn't enough.
Unable to reach customer service reps, exhausted travelers have scrambled to rebook with other airlines or line up for a dwindling supply of rental cars.
I think I've made my last flight on Southwest. I'm going to other airlines.
And for Southwest travelers who do finally reach their destination, those who checked a bag are facing another challenge, finding lost luggage.
I was told my luggage would arrive on the next available flight that has been sent, but so far no luggage.
Hector Leon Rivera spent Christmas in California's Bay Area without his bags.
I'm hoping they're here in the mess of everything, but I have no idea.
While in Chicago, the sounds of relief. After 2 canceled Southwest flights, Patrick Keene was finally reunited with his bag.
I just haven't had this bag in a week. I've been wearing other people's clothes.
Southwest has blamed the disruptions partly on outdated scheduling systems. Both the flight attendants and pilots unions say they've complained about technological failures for years. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
That meltdown at Southwest is now under federal investigation. Banking giant J.P. Morgan Chase is under fire, accused of benefiting from sex trafficking by billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. It comes after an attorney in the U.S. Virgin Islands filed suit saying the bank failed to report suspicious activity. The lawsuit accuses the bank of not complying with federal regulations and failing to make proper regulatory filings that could have tipped off the government to Epstein's alleged sex trafficking ring of underage girls. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, is relief really in sight for those holiday travelers still stranded at America's airports? Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to have more on the city of Joplin's efforts to form a team to address declining neighborhoods. Plus, how Freeman Health System is helping out its employees commute to work. And a local 100-year-old World War II veteran is laid to rest in Baxter Springs, Kansas. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. It's nice to see the sunset coming a little bit later, evening by evening. The days getting longer again.
A little bit.
And the weather pretty nice right now.
Yeah, we're gaining about a minute or two of evening daylight each and every day, which is always nice. A little bit cooler for us tomorrow, 51, a lot of clouds, but back to 61 Saturday. New Year's Day up to 64, 66 on Monday, so temperature is pretty good.
Thanks for joining us. The CBS Evening News is next. And of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. See you then. Let's make it a great evening.